So, this is my wonderful digital storytelling contemporary realistic fiction project. I just wanted to go over one of my favorite childhood books. The book that I'll be talking about today is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. May, Many of people actually know this book from early grade levels, maybe fourth or fifth grade. That's around the time that I started reading this book. It's one of my favorites. I loved reading it over and over. I didn't really like to read chapter books. This was the perfect book for me. I didn't really like reading, and it would be a perfect book to include in my classroom as well. Jeff Kinney is the author of this book, and he is actually very famous and an award-winning author. He's created actually over 20 different Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, and actually took part of four different movies as well. I've seen the movies and they're actually not that bad. He took part of them, did some artwork they included with him, and helped that young actor in the movie do his role, and he's actually did very well. The main theme in this book is actually peer pressure. Greg Heffley, the main character of this book, is trying to fit in with other middle schoolers, and he has a really trouble time doing that. As throughout the book, he embarrasses himself, as well as his family and friends. He just has a trouble time fitting in. Another big theme is the fact that he does not have a good relationship with his big brother Roderick. Many examples in the book, he and his brother always are in fights. His big brother plays pranks on him. They just never get along. His big brother is uh, actually in high school during the time of this book, and in many other books, he just is not a good influence on his little brother, and his parents have no idea. His parents are, like I said, are actually another part of him being embarrassed at school. His dad and his mother are actually very embarrassing in the book. Uh, Many times in society, our parents embarrass us, and that's a big theme throughout this book. Another theme is the fact that he's going through puberty in middle school. It's one of the most turbulent times. It's through middle school, through high school, and he's definitely trying to fit in, and that construct of fitting in is a part of him growing up because he wants to fit in the social norms. Greg Heffley is actually the main character in this book, and he is actually narrating his life in middle school. At the very beginning of this book, he describes that he's going into middle school. He just graduated from elementary school, and he's actually writing everything down in his quote unquote journal, but it's actually his diary. His mother, being embarrassing as she is, uh, he asked her to get him a journal, and instead she got a diary, and he was very embarrassed. So that gives the reason why the book is called Diary of a Wimpy Kid instead of Journal, because diary is associated with girly things instead of a journal, which is more of a male term for a book that you write down thoughts with. As I said before, his mother's very embarrassing. She's very very good example of a helicopter parent. She just wants the best of him and spoils him and does that in front of other people and doesn't realize what she's doing. His father, being less of a helicopter parent, is actually trying to force Greg into sports and to be more involved with school. And many times, Greg is playing video games because actually his favorite hobby in the book. But his dad doesn't approve of that and really wants him to be more involved in school and is really over the top with how he explains to him why video games are not a good thing to be around. And his brother Roderick, like I said before, is very mean to his little brother Greg, the main character, and he plays pranks on him. Is really rough with him in the book and the movie, and is just not a good person to be around in the book. He's in a band. He's uh very just not a good role model to be around. Also, his little brother Manny, which is featured in the book of just a little bit, is a very spoiled kid. He's a little, he's about 4 years old in the book at learning words and things, and his mother spoils him, and he gets whatever he wants, but actually makes Greg's life a lot harder. And seems that he's so innocent, but he breaks Greg's things like his gaming system in the book. Also, his Greg's best friend Rowley is featured as well, and he's very embarrassing to be around too, just like his Greg's mother. He just doesn't fit being in middle school, and Greg has been Rowley's friend since elementary school, and is quote unquote stuck being around him. He does have a lot of fun playing video games with him, but it's very hard to try to fit in when Rowley is still saying, "Hey, do you want to come play at my house?" instead of saying, "Hey, do you want to come and hang out?" Is a very prime example of immature. There's the main big plot is the cheese touch, which is in the book and the movie, and it was just this stinky cheese that's on the playground, and it's passed on one person to another in the book. And it's just a game of tag basically, and whoever has a cheese touch, no one wants to be around. They're just replaced in society, and it's just a really bad thing that's in the book. It is actually a game that was created in real life. People would play tag in real life, and it actually became a big thing from the book. Another big plot is the fact if Greg will actually become a cool person. He really wants to be famous, but he's still stuck in a school with a bunch of morons, as he says. And he's struggling throughout the book to try to fit in. Will he actually survive in middle school? You might want to check it out yourself, the book, if you haven't read it before. One award was actually a Blue Peter Book Award, and actually it made the New York Times bestseller many years in a row as well. One of the biggest controversies with this book was the fact that it reinforces bad behaviors. It was a by parents. They said that it was a bad influence. It reinforced many things in society that were frowned upon. Many times bullying was brought up, and it wasn't a bad thing per se. The bad people that bullied other people, they weren't punished in the end of the book. That's why there was a big controversy with that. Also, there was examples of pranks, and they were aimed to be funny, but people got hurt, and there wasn't any punishments for the bad people that pulled pranks on other human beings. This book is actually aimed to be a fourth to fifth grade book, and it could go up to middle school. Actually, it's really simple, has simpler vocab. It's a really good book for fourth or fifth grade. Like I said at the very beginning, I really love this book. It was one of the first books that actually liked because I didn't really like chapter books. I didn't like reading. I actually related to the book a lot. Throughout middle school, I tried to fit in. I wanted to be cool, but it was very hard for me because I did have embarrassing parents, embarrassing friends. It's just a really good book to relate to, and that at that age, fourth, fifth grade, or middle school, trying to move into it. And I want to thank you so much for listening to this. I really love this book, and I hope you do too. If you haven't read it before, I definitely suggest it. And there's 20 others if you like to read them as well. Thanks again.